What's up, my fellow harmonic traders? Welcome back to Track the Harmonic, your go-to destination for everything harmonic technical analysis. I'm your host, Lord MC. In today's highly anticipated video, we're going to embark on an exciting journey into the realm of harmonic technical analysis. We'll also be diving into a comprehensive outlook for the upcoming week, highlighting some crucial events that could potentially sway the markets in significant ways. As we all know, the financial landscape can be both thrilling and unpredictable, and staying ahead of the game requires a keen eye and a solid strategy. That's where harmonic technical analysis comes into play, which is a powerful tool that can be used to decipher market reversal trends and uncover potential opportunities. Before we dive into the world of harmonic patterns, let's first take a moment to prepare ourselves for what lies ahead in the financial world. The week ahead promises to be packed with pivotal events, from earnings releases that can sway individual stocks and potentially move entire markets. So what are these individual stocks? Stocks like Domino's Pizza, Verizon, General Motors, 3M here, General Electric, Spotify, Microsoft, Google, Snap, Visa, AT&T, Boeing, Coca-Cola, Meta, McDonald's, MasterCard, Ford, Intel, Exxon, Procter & Gamble, Chevron, just to name a few. So different companies from different sectors will be reporting earnings this week. Some analysts are actually predicting that Q2 earnings seasons may deliver a mixed bag, with expectations of challenging earnings reports for many of these companies. It will be intriguing to see how these companies perform amidst these projections, and whether some of them manage to surprise and beat earnings expectations. Such developments could potentially act as a catalyst driving the market to push even higher. We'll closely be monitoring the federal interest rate decision, which is a critical moment that can send ripples through the global economy. To add to the anticipation, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is scheduled to address a conference where he'll provide insights into the Fed's rate decision and shed light on the central bank's stance on monetary policy. We also have the gross domestic product report, will provide essential insights into the health of the nation's economy, shedding light on its overall performance. Furthermore, we can't overlook PCE, which is the Personal Consumption Expenditures Report, a significant gauge of inflation, which has the potential to impact interest rates and influence investor sentiment. Lastly, we'll be keeping a close eye on the weekly jobless claims data, a crucial indicator of the labor market's health, offering valuable hints about economic recovery and growth. But before we get started, I want to preface by saying I am not a financial advisor. None of the things I say in my videos or anywhere else is ever financial advice, so question everything, do your own research, and come out with your own conclusions. If you find this type of content valid and want to stay updated with the future videos, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. So having said that, let's get right into the charts. So looking here at SPY on the daily, Friday you went as high as 454.17. The low was 452.17 before closing the day at 452.18. So what can we expect here harmonically for SPY? You do still have this bearish crab pattern here, where you are slightly above hop at 451.17. You did generate an HSI arrow on Thursday, and it looks to be like an inside bar here with increase in selling pressure from Thursday to Friday, slight increase there. So if this manages to stay above 451.17, I'm going to bring on my drawings here. If this manages to get above 451.17 or stay above there, the next target I'd be looking at is still 453.67, where you did break up here up on Wednesday, but you failed to continue pushing and you did come down. So if you manage to break above 453.67, the next level I'd be looking at would be 465.96. Otherwise, if you fell 451.17, the next level I'd be looking at is potentially filling this gap here at 443.75. You will find support here. So far, it has found support after 13 EMA. So if you're looking to lose for 451.17, I would look at 448.44. Losing the 21 EMA here, and specifically where that 443.75 would be very significant for SPY here to come back down to 436.31 at XA. Losing that will obviously complete the type 1 reaction all the way to target 1 at 419.74. I want to quickly jump over to the weekly to see what this is telling us. This is a reversal candle, which is an inverted hammer candle on an uptrend. So by definition, an inverted hammer candle usually on a downtrend tends to be a reversal candlestick pattern, but this is appearing at an uptrend. It's still nonetheless a reversal candle. So if there's going to be more continuation, like I said, I would look to see if it closes above 453.67. If you manage to break that, you could potentially see the 886 here, or excuse me, the 465.96 here, and then maybe test new all-time highs. So right now you are a bit, let me see here on the RSI. On the weekly, you're slightly underneath that 70 range there, so If it manages to break up above, like I said, above 453, I do think there's a good shot in the 460s. Otherwise, there will be some continuation to the downside as the HSI arrow that was generated on Thursday is now coming down to that midline. If you come to that midline on the HSI, I do think there's a potential opportunity to fill that gap and maybe test XA here at 436. Having said that, let's jump over to the triple Qs. Triple Qs here on the daily, you also had similar candlesticks here, like the SPY here. You generated also an HSI arrow on Thursday with increase in volume, right? So the next level I'd be looking at, should it not hold the 13 EMA here, is to fill this gap here right at 374.19. If you don't find support there, the next level I'd be looking at here is around 372, which is 21 EMA. Losing that, as so far as we could tell, the triple Qs has respected the 21 EMA. So if you find support, you can continue creating that higher low and then potentially creating a higher high. So to the downside, if you lose a 21 EMA here, you could come back down to 361.07, then maybe test the 50. The 50 would be a very important level for this the triple Qs to lose here, because losing 358, you could potentially come all the way down here, fill that second gap here around 333, and maybe come down for a type 1 reaction all the way down to target 1. Still too early to tell. The HSI did cross the midline, so there's a good maybe opportunity to potentially fill this gap, find support around the 21 EMA for where it will potentially find support here and then continue to higher highs. If we look over to the weekly, you did generate a hanging man on an uptrend, which is bearish by definition. So you did get rejected off of this alt bat pattern at XA here at 387.11. So I'd be looking at to see if it fills that gap and if it finds support below that. Otherwise, if this is going to potentially tell us that this is going to reverse here off the weekly alt bat pattern and you start heading down for that type 1 reaction, you could come back all the way down to target 1 here at 327.55. The HSI did cross the midline as it was a bit overextended here on the RSI. So those are the lows I'd be looking at for the triple Qs here. Jumping over to the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones had a very bullish week. On Friday, you went as high as 353.32 before closing the day at 352.14. So you did generate here this indecision candle here to see on decrease in volume. We did have a dividend day on Friday. So what can we expect here for the Dow Jones? Had a very bullish week, just creating higher highs here. So if there's more continuation for the Dow Jones, I'd be looking at 357, which is a key level here for the Dow Jones to break. If you break, as you could tell here, this is the time where it got rejected after September 21 here, where you came down, you broke above slightly, and then you had hard rejection, and then you continued to push up here for during this time to create new all-time highs. You got rejected at this level, and you managed to find support, and then you created a new all-time high. So you also had some rejection here. So this is a very important level here for, in my opinion, for the Dow Jones. Should you break 357, the next level I'd be looking at is filling that gap here slightly around 360. You fill that gap and I do see potential, at least a test of the all-time highs or even create new all-time highs. Should you find not able to push above here for the Dow Jones, the next level I'd be looking at to hold would be hop here at 347.56, which is slightly below or at the 9 EMA. Fail that, you come back down to test 345. 35 and then 343.09. So losing 343.09, you could have a potential opportunity to come back to test target 1 at 330.96. Off the weekly, you could tell that this is a increase in buying pressure on the weekly. You could be setting up for a potential bullish continuation. Maybe you get 3 white soldiers on the weekly, which would be ultimately bullish, as the HSI did find support off top of the midline. So that's what I have so far for this. Looks like the Dow Jones wants to continue pushing here with 2 weeks on increasing volume. So we'll definitely keep an eye out on the Dow Jones. Jumping over to IWM here. Also, IWM had a very bullish week. It did hit high at 197.66 on Wednesday. But on Friday, you did come down a little bit with increasing selling pressure from Thursday to Friday. So you went high as 196.62 before closing the day at 194.46. You did generate this bearish bat pattern on Wednesday here, and you did lose XA here for 2 days in a row below 195.63. So the next level I'd be looking for support, it would be here at ABCD, which is at 192.02. If you don't find support there, I'd be looking at the 21 EMA at around 190, and then maybe losing that, you could come back down to test target 1 at 186.12, in which case you would complete that type 1 reaction. It will be important to see what the HSI does here at that midline to see if it finds support. That would be closely at the 90 EMA here at 193. Should it find support, you could continue pushing up higher here for IWM. You could be setting up for higher highs and higher lows here, so it will definitely be interesting to see if it finds support at these levels. If you do come back down and create that higher low around ABCD here, you could start setting up for a continuation up higher, in which case for this bearish bad pattern, Hop is calling at 203.74. So if we jump over to the weekly, we can also see that there is a white swan pattern here where you kind of having, you did close above 193.35. So if this is going to continue, I do have this trend line here where you broke out of and also found support. So you continue breaking around 203, the next level I'd be looking at would be around 210, let's call it 213 to be exact, as volume is coming in, and I do think there is a shift in sectors here from tech stocks to these small caps. So it will definitely be interesting if there's more continuation, and if it finds support here at around the mid 190s for IWM. There's a key level there around 200 there for IWM break, so we will definitely keep an eye on IWM. Jumping over to XLF here. XLF on the daily, we had a very bullish week here for bank earnings for a lot of these banks. So what could we expect here pushing forward? You have a bullish shark pattern where you did break above target 1 here finally at 33.75. So the next level I'd be looking at would be 35.61, and then maybe finish that type 1 reaction all the way to target 2 at 36.34. Should you have continuation, you do have a golden cross approaching on the EMAs. So right now the RSI is a bit overextended here for the for XLF here, so we'll definitely see maybe if you get some type of push to the downside just to refresh everything, you could come back down to test 34.69, which is PT2 here off the bearish white swan pattern, and you could find support potentially there and then continue on the way back up to 634 on the weekly. If we jump over here, you do have combination of a few harmonic patterns here that are bullish. You had a white swan pattern where obviously the white swan pattern completed a type 1 reaction back here in September, but you can still look at these levels for support and resistance, as well as the bullish bat pattern right here where you are above target 1 at 34.54. So you would complete again another shot here where it did go from target 1, excuse me, for the completion of point D here to target 2 here back in February. So you do have an increase in buying pressure here for XLF, and you have a 921 crossover to the upside with a 2050 crossover potentially happening down the line. Obviously this is on the weekly chart, so this may take some time, but volume did increase from last week. So that's a level I'd be looking here for a bullish continuation for XLF here at 237.27. If you don't, you could come back down to test 34.54, then 33.53, filling the gap there back on the daily there where it's at $32. So we'll definitely see if there's more continuation for the banking sector. Jumping over to XLE, which is the energy sector here, you had you have some resistance right now on Friday here where you are approaching the 200 SMA here, so you did have a bit of buying pressure here during the week. So the next level I'd be looking at to see if it comes back up to and breaks the 200 SMA here would be at 86.35, and then coming back for that type 2 reaction all the way to off of this black swan pattern to 87 and then 91. Should you get rejected here off the 200 SMA, the next level I'd be looking at would be 82.51, which is a key level there for the energy sector. Should you lose that, you may come back down to test around $81 and then 80.36, come back to 76.45. Right now you do have at least some volume coming in here with the potential golden cross here approaching on the daily. On the weekly, you had a good candle close here above BC here at 83.92 off of this bearish scrap pattern, where it looks like right now you're creating lower lows and lower highs. So you definitely want to break this trend here if you're going to continue pushing here on the energy sector. Should you break above BC here 83.92, which it did, I think, yeah, it did. It's above 83.92. If you continue to stay above that and go to that XA 90.56, you do in fact break this downtrend and start maybe looking at creating higher highs and higher lows for a continuation all the way up to 108.63 potentially. So the MACD did flip green, so we will see if there is more bullish momentum on the energy sector, as some of these energy stocks are reporting earnings on Friday. So very interesting to see what they report. Jumping over to Apple here. So Apple on the daily, mind you, there's a lot of drawings here, but Apple here did get rejected almost at that 198.93, which is a fib retracement at the new, I think if I'm not mistaken, was 127% retracement from the previous all-time highs to the 52-week lows. So you almost tested that level there. You had a pop there with them reporting that they will be implementing some new AI that will compete with ChatGPT and Bard. So you had that push on Wednesday up to that level there. So right now on Friday and Thursday you had an increase in selling pressure, and there is a gap fill which it did not close. So there's still that gap fill that closes at 191.18 should it come down. So it's right now respecting about the 13 EMA, as Apple has respected the 21 EMA so far. So if there is continuation on Monday here, you could potentially fill that gap, come down to that 189 range where the 21 EMA is at. If you fail to lose the 21 EMA here, you will come back down to test 185.24 right at my target here at 184.95, and possibly test the 50 EMA there around 182.94. Losing that will be definitely bearish here for Apple, which you could come down here to 175, fill that gap, and maybe down the line go down to target 1 at 167.62 to complete that type 1 reaction. We did cross the HSA midline on Friday, so we'll see if it finds support. So far Apple has found support off the 21 EMA. Should you find support for Apple here off the 21 EMA, that will create a higher low. Find support, you come back up and maybe start pushing for higher highs. If you break 198.93, you do have hop here at 206.35. There's that psychological 200 level for Apple. Should it decide to go there, you can go see 206.35. On the weekly, you did generate here a reversal candle here, which I believe this is a gravestone doji if I'm not mistaken. So if this is signaling that a reversal is incoming, right now you still have buying pressure on the weekly. So we'll definitely see if this is a reversal candle to the downside. So Apple is very close here, so they will be reporting earnings at the beginning of August, so there's still some time with me, maybe even just to consolidate until then. So keep an eye out on Apple. Jumping over to Microsoft here. So Microsoft has some bearish, had a bullish week, which it did break up above here high at 366.78, but then you had 3 days in a row with an HSI arrow that was generated, and now you have 3 black crows here where you did manage to test the 21 EMA and were able to stay above it. So what can we expect here for Microsoft? Obviously the selling and pressure here was due to Apple reporting that they were going to start creating an AI to compete with ChatGPT, so that's why you had a little bit of selling pressure as well as other things. So Microsoft does report earnings this week, so this is going to be very interesting to see what Microsoft does. The HSI did cross the midline, so I'm going to give what happens if this is going to continue to come down here. If you don't find support off the 21 EMA, there is this bearish harmonic pattern, this bearish bat pattern, where losing the 21 EMA, you could come back down to test hop at $330.41, which is right where the 50 EMA and 50 SMA is at. Losing that, you can come back down to fill that gap around 317, come back down to XA at 304.26, maybe find support off the 200 EMA. If you don't find that support there, then you could fill this gap at 281, and then come back down to test the 200 SMA right at target 1 here, which is where that type 1 reaction would complete. Should you find support here above the 21 EMA here, you could be looking at potentially creating higher lows and then finding support above 349.67. Daily, you do have a bearish white swan on top of a bearish bat pattern. Both have completion of point D here. You did generate this on Wednesday where you gap down, you left that massive gap there, which fills up back above around 288 and change. So right now you have 3 days in a row where you have an increase in selling pressure here for Tesla. So what can we expect here for Tesla? I am looking to see if Tesla can come down to 253.80 and find support there. If it finds support, then maybe you can come back and reverse all the way to OPR there to potentially in the 300s. Should you fail the 253.80 range here, you're looking at for potential filling that gap there around 237 and then completing the type 1 reaction off of this bearish bat pattern to target 1 at 233.85, with which where you would expect a potential reversal back up. Should you bounce off the 253.80 here, you can look to reclaim 263, 276, fill that gap at 289, and then go on the quest to potentially start looking to test 300 there. You got really close last week at 299.29 before you got rejected there. So the HSI is way above that, below that midline. So in my opinion, I'm even looking to see if this holds at 253.80 and even the gap fill there. Off of the weekly, I wanted to share here that you had an engulfing candle, a bearish engulfing candle where you engulfed the previous 2 weeks off increase in selling pressure. So you did generate also an HSI arrow on the weekly, and for as far as Tesla and this bullish bat pattern on the weekly, you did complete a beautiful type 1 reaction all the way to target 2 at above 295.05 before you got rejected there. So what can we expect here moving forward for Tesla? Something I found interesting that I looked here, that it looks like it is generating here a potential bearish harmonic pattern, which would indicate that it is coming down. It looks like to me like a bat pattern. So if this is going to continue to come back down here, I'd be looking at these targets here. Roughly target 1 would be around 223.25, and then the 618 would be around 176.87 in the worst case scenario there if it loses target 1. I'm actually interested to see if HPC indicator is also showing a pending pattern there. There it is. So spot on there. So this could potentially open up on Monday here with this pattern forming, and if this is potentially indicating that we're coming back down to that target 1, like I said, target 1 is at 223 on the weekly, so this may take some time to play out. Who knows? I'm going to delete my pattern there. So having said that, this is a bearish harmonic pattern with target 1, target 2, but as we know, there is a hop level there. So what could that hop level be for Tesla? Anywhere around $353 would be where hop would be generated on the weekly. Obviously going to 300 plus, but obviously you need volume to the upside for that. But right now you do have this pending bearish pattern on Tesla. So it's going to be potentially interesting to see if we are starting momentum down for Tesla. So keep an eye out on Tesla. Jumping over to Google. So Google on the daily also has an increase in selling pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, red days. So it does have this bearish harmonic pattern here, this bearish bat pattern, where it found support twice already at the 50 EMA, which is slightly above BC here at 118.98. Should you not hold support here, the next level I'd be looking is that gap fill around $113 and change. You lose that, you can come back down and fill that gap, test target 1 at 111.58. Maybe you test the 200 EMA, you wick down really quick, find support, and then continue back up. Google also reports earning this week. You did cross the HSN midline, so it's going to be a very important level of where Google needs to hold support. If it doesn't find support there, you might be coming down for that target 1 there. Otherwise, if you could find support here, you might just consolidate around this level here until earnings, right? Earnings is on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Tuesday. If you could just have Monday and Tuesday just chop here, and then finally maybe find support, get some volume. If you can manage to break above 122.55, you'll be looking at X at 125.92. There's a gap fill still that hasn't filled around 132, and then hop at 138.18. So obviously you had bearish sentiment there with the AI announcement for Apple that also brought Google down. And on the weekly, we have this bullish crab pattern where you did get rejected already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times off of target to a 125.49. So that's a key level to break there for Google. Should you break that level, you can see that gap fill. So you did have a significant selling pressure here on this week. So we'll definitely keep an eye on Google to see if they actually report good earnings, and I do think we could see this in the 130s. Jumping over to Meta here. So Meta also did gap fill. Did finally gap fill around the 316 level that had it gapped down from back on when it reported bad earnings. So that's very, very bullish there for Meta, which is one of the craziest things I've ever seen off of this weekly pattern here off of Meta. This bullish crap pattern where you came down a hop and you just found support, and it was just pushing all the way to target 2. Something crazy. I've never seen this. So very, very interesting that Meta was able to do this. And you still have a golden cross here on the weekly here approaching for Meta. Maybe you do cross next week. So they do report earnings as well next week. So if there's any continuation, I'd be looking to see if we can find support above 302. If you find support above 302 off of this bullish pattern here for the weekly, the next level I'd be looking at would be 338, 359 and the 100%, obviously 384 and then all-time highs, right? So if we go over to the daily here, the Meta has so far respected the 21 EMA. On Friday, you did close just below it, so you could just be setting up for a higher low and then continuing to find support until you create another higher high. Should you not find support here, I'd be looking at 275.44 for Meta. Obviously losing that, you can come back all the way to test 218 and then fill in the gap at 213. I don't think there is a current bearish harmonic pattern there forming just yet, so this still looks potentially like just kind of resetting. If you finally reset the RSI here for Meta, so you could come back down as the HSI is coming to that potentially oversold zone. That could probably be around that 50 EMA should you not find support here. So we'll definitely keep an eye on Meta, see if there's more continuation, to see if this respects the 21 EMA like it has done in the past. So we'll see about Meta. Jumping over to NVDA here. NVIDIA on the daily also had 3 days in a row with increase in selling pressure there, and this gap here is still not yet filled. So this gap fills right at 439.35 on Friday. You did go as high as 458.66 before closing the day at 443.09 here. So there's definitely some increase in selling pressure for NVIDIA. As far as the next level I'd be looking at for NVIDIA is see if it finds support off the 21 EMA here at 435.82. If it doesn't, the next level I'd be looking at is 419.38, 411.30, filling this gap here around 396 where the 50 EMA is. Should you find support off the 21 EMA, you create a higher low, I'd be looking to see the next level there at 493.76 and then that psychological level there at 500. So on the weekly, you did have increase in selling pressure. So we will definitely keep an eye on NVIDIA if there's more continuation to the upside for NVIDIA. As well, there was also the reason it did come down too because of TSM reporting lower than expected earnings there. So we'll see if there's more continuation to the downside for NVIDIA here into next week. Jumping over to Netflix here. So Netflix on Friday, Thursday and Friday, you got a significant selling pressure here. So Netflix did report earnings last week, and it did report a mixed bag there with them missing expectations in revenue, I believe, and but they actually increased in subscribers. So you did lose a 21 EMA here, so you did manage to close below hop here at 429.22 off of this bearish ABCD pattern. So if there's no support here into next week, the next level I'd be looking at here is at 412.67, which is right above the 50 EMA here. Should you lose that, you can come back down, fill that gap around 386, and then maybe complete that type 1 reaction to 352.06, where the 200 EMA is off of this ABCD pattern here. Should you find support above 429.22, the next level we'll be looking to reclaim would be here at 445.94, which is where the 90 EMA is. Maybe enter the gap here again at 459, test the 52-week highs here at 483, and then down the line finish that gap here around 407. So right now the EMAs are curling down. You could be setting up for a potential 921 crossover to the downside The HSI did cross the midline, so that 50 EMA on the weekly, on the daily, would be a very important level for Netflix to hold. If it doesn't, then we could potentially see more downside on Netflix. So definitely keep an eye out on Netflix. What I wanted to cover here will be Bitcoin. So Bitcoin on the daily, you still have a bit of a hard time trying to stay above right now, above 30K. You look like you have a potential bullish formation here where you're trying to break above here. So you did have a bullish run up here to an attempt at hop, but you got rejected really quick. So right now you could be setting up on the daily for a potential bear flag situation going on there, as right now you're having OB here at 30,200 as a level of resistance. So the HSI is approaching the midline, so if you can manage to cross above OB here at 30.2, the next level will be looking at the 30.8. Above terminal here, obviously the hardest level to stay above is hop here around 31.8. Should you break that, you could potentially see Bitcoin to 32,000 and then 37,000. Should you not find should you find resistance here at OB here at 30.2, you could come back down to 29.3 and then potentially down the line to target 1 here at 28.1. Off the weekly, you did generate a hanging man candle here off of low volume. You still got a couple hours left for that to finish, so by definition that is a bearish candle, but we will see if there's more continuation to on the upside for Bitcoin, as it is trying to stay above 30, but there is some resistance right now. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys. I will be streaming tomorrow 10 minutes before the bell opens, so if you want to catch me on stream there, I do stream on Twitch from Monday to Friday, so I will provide the link to my Twitch on the description box below. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody, and peace.